Session 5, Taking Charge of Your Life.
We said in the first series of modules that the starting point of all peak performance is self-esteem. It's how much you like yourself, how much you love yourself, how much you accept yourself as a valuable and worthwhile human being. The second part of peak performance, I think the two key requirements, the second part is self-responsibility. Self-esteem plus self-responsibility, each reinforcing themselves. And what self-responsibility says simply is that you are the architect of your own destiny, that you are the master of your own fate, that you are totally self-responsible, that everything that you are or ever will be is up to you and you alone. Now, you can believe in a higher power, as I do, and you can say that the higher power is responsible, but God helps those who help themselves. And for this earthly life, you're in charge of your life. You're in charge of what happens to you. If you don't like the way things are going, it's up to you to change it. But there's no way that you can ever give away responsibility. And this whole subject of responsibility is one that is very controversial. And as you will see as we talk in this session, it's one that you have to understand with crystal clarity if you want to achieve your full potential as a human being. Now, we go over here. One of the things that we know is we start off as infants, if you like, when we're born. I'll just write I for infant. We start off as infants, and as we grow to become adults at the age of 18 years, we start off with zero responsibility. And as we grow toward becoming adults, we gain responsibility more and more, until by the time we become adults at the age of 18 years, if our parents have brought us up properly, if they have prepared us, if they've encouraged us to be self-reliant, if they've encouraged us to make our own decisions and think for ourselves and plan our own lives, at the age of 18 years, legally speaking, psychologically, morally, mentally, physically, and everything else, you are ready to take over your own life. Now, if your parents have not prepared you as an adult for total responsibility, it doesn't matter. At the age of 18, and from 18 onward, you are 100% responsible. For the rest of your life, you can never absolve yourself of responsibility. For the rest of your life, everything that happens to you is up to you, totally and without forgiveness. The slogan of the truly responsible person is, if it's to be, it's up to me. Which means, as Henry Ford said, never complain, never explain. Never complain, never explain. What that means is if you don't like the way things are, then it's up to you to change them. And if you're not willing to take steps to change them, then don't complain about them. Just simply accept them. Men who are men and women who are women don't complain about the difficulties of life. They just accept them as the difficulties of life, and they either do something about them or they don't say anything. So if it's to be, it's up to me. If it's to be, it's up to you. This is one of the hardest things to understand, because when we're children, at this stage, we're totally dependent. And being totally dependent, we develop, if you like, a habit pattern or a conditioned response, and we look for the reason that things happen outside of ourselves. As we become adults, if we're not careful, we will still retain this dependency, and we will long for what is called the pseudo-security of childhood. That time in childhood when someone took care of us. That time in childhood when we were fed and clothed and our home was taken care of and our school and everything. We didn't have to worry about a thing because they took care of it. As we grow up, we go off to school, and the people at school, they take care of things. And if we're not careful, we get into the work world, and then again it's they. It's always someone else outside of ourselves who is ultimately responsible for ourselves. One of the things which I'll talk about later is the whole idea of self-development. Most people, because they've taken all their education in the public school system, think that it's up to them when they're adults to continue their education. If nobody comes along to continue it, they just simply don't do it. Now there's another point, and that's the difference between maturity and immaturity. And here's a very simple example. Imagine that this is the course of life, again from infancy to adulthood. And everybody reaches the stage, sooner or later, where they come to this great cliff and this great canyon. And this is the side of immaturity. This is the side of childhood. This is the side where we are dependent upon others and where we look to others for our answers and our solutions. We look outside of ourselves. At this point, we come to the edge of this canyon. At the edge of this canyon, we look across into the land of maturity, the land of adulthood. And each one of us has to make a decision to jump in one great leap from being a child to being an adult. Now, sometimes this is forced on us. Sometimes it happens in an evolutionary way. But sooner or later, we have to make the decision to accept the fact that we're in charge of our own lives, we're the architects of our own destinies, and then get on with it. What do most people do? Unfortunately, what most people do is they turn back at this point. They slip into marriages where somebody will take care of them. They take jobs where they expect their bosses to take care of them and so on. Or they just simply avoid responsibility by looking for the cause of everything that happens to them in other people and other circumstances. It's their bills, it's their health, it's the way their parents treated them and so on. They're not really responsible. On the other hand, sometimes they decide to take a little responsibility but not too much, which is the equivalent of trying to leap over a canyon in 2 jumps. And where the vast majority of people end up, unfortunately, is in the valley. And this is the valley of excuses. The great majority of people spend their whole life in the valley of excuses, making excuses rather than making progress. There's an old saying that says the disease of excusitis, which is the habit of making excuses to excuse away our failures and our inadequacies, is fatal to success. The habit of making excuses is fatal to your success. So the question you have to ask yourself when we talk about responsibility is, what excuses do you use not to move ahead? There was a very famous story by Tolstoy, where Tolstoy and his brothers would play, and they had a game. And the game was that out in the garden there would be a box. And in the box was the answer to all the riddles of life. And you could find the box under a certain bush as long as you didn't think about a big white rabbit. As long as you kept your mind clear of that big white rabbit and you didn't think about the rabbit, you could find the answer to all the mysteries of life. Well, of course, nobody ever found the box, or nobody ever found the answer to the mysteries of life because they couldn't stop thinking of the big white rabbit. The question you have to ask yourself is, what is your big white rabbit? What is it that you think of? What is the excuse that looms into your mind whenever you think of something that you could do or have or be? A new job, a new challenge, an opportunity, changing something in your life that you're not happy with. What is the white rabbit? What is the excuse that pops into your mind? You say, well, I can't do that because. Or another thing is, yes, but. I'd like to, but. There's always a reason. I'm too young, I'm too old. I'm too tall, I'm too short. I don't have enough education, I've got too much education. It's the wrong time, it's the wrong place, and so on. What is your white rabbit? What is it that sticks in the back of your mind that causes you to make excuses, that causes you to hang back from taking responsibility, that keeps you in the land of childhood, immaturity, and irresponsibility? Very, very important question to ask. Now, when we talk about responsibility, we talk about something else. It's simply this, is that the acceptance of responsibility is not optional. Many of us like to think that, well, I'll take a little responsibility here, I'll take a little responsibility there. No, the acceptance of responsibility is not optional. From the time you become 18 years old, you are 100% responsible. You have no choice in the matter. As a matter of fact, there are very few things in life over which you have no choice, but you have no choice in this. It is mandatory. It is mandatory if you wish to fulfill your potential, if you wish to become everything you're capable of becoming, you must take full responsibility for bringing about the circumstances, for making the changes, for making the hard decisions necessary. If you take the word responsibility, you can break it into 2 words, response and ability. And one of the things which I've learned as I've studied history is that all of life is a series of challenges, difficulties, problems, setbacks, obstacles to face. And the difference between the winners and losers in life is not the difference in problems, because everybody has problems. And most people, and many people, have more and bigger problems than you or I could ever dream of. The difference in life, the difference between winners and losers, is the responses to the problems. Many years ago, a man named Oswald Spengler wrote a book in which he talked about what he called the challenge-response theory. The challenge-response theory simply said that civilizations grow and decline to the degree to which they meet challenges effectively and respond effectively. A small society starts out small, and almost invariably it will be challenged by either an external enemy or nature or weather or something else. If the society responds in a positive and constructive way to the challenge, the society grows. As it grows, it triggers additional challenges, difficulties. If it responds to them effectively, it grows some more. Oswald Spengler studied the 21 great empires of human civilization and found that every single one followed this cycle. As long as the civilization continued to rise to the challenge, it continued to grow stronger and stronger. The reason why this analogy is so important is that we as human beings are exactly the same. We grow to the degree to which we respond effectively, to the degree to which we rise to the challenges without making excuses that life throws at us. And when we look at the great men and women of history, whether it's Albert Schweitzer or Winston Churchill or George Washington or Abraham Lincoln or Franklin Delano Roosevelt, we look at those great people, we find that they were always people that rose to the challenges of the time. If ever you wish to be capable of rising to great challenges, what you have to do is you have to start off on a daily basis rising to small challenges, which means no matter what happens, you accept the challenge, you accept the responsibility, you refuse to make excuses, and you go forward. Now, there's three areas in life, in our modern life, which you must be very, very aware of. The first area is the political area. If you look around you, you will find that there is a great drive toward the government doing it, the government being responsible. Make the government responsible. What people are doing is they want the government to be their parent. They want the government to protect them and take care of them. But as the more you vote for politicians to do things for you, the more you give politicians control. You see, you can never give away responsibility. You can only give away control. How do you give away control? You give away control in terms of voting for them to spend more of your money, regulate more of your businesses, tax away more of your income, and so on. The second area, so let me just finish this. The urge towards statism, collectivism, socialism, large government, and so on is all aimed at somehow making the government, that faceless bunch of bureaucrats, responsible for the challenges of our own lives. Now, the second area where this is prevalent is in the criminal justice system. In the criminal justice system, you will find that the one characteristic of all criminals is that they refuse to accept responsibility for their crime. It was always someone else or something else. It was always their childhood or the background or the other guys. That the way that people get out of the criminal justice system is they accept responsibility for the crimes they've committed. And they say, I did this. Nobody made me do it. I am responsible. And they stop going back to jail. The third area is in medicine. Today we know that almost all of our problems in medicine are psychological in origin, or we inflict things on ourselves. The average American or Canadian is about 10 to 20 pounds overweight. In medicine, we expect the doctor to be responsible. Just imagine how we would take, what kind of care you would take of yourself if you were on a desert island for life, with no doctors, no nurses, no hospitals, no medicine, no nothing, where you had nothing to fall back on. Very, very important point. So all around you in society, you're going to notice this clamor, this demand, I am not responsible. Make somebody else responsible. But this is the key. Remember, you are always free to choose. You are free to choose your responses. You are free to choose the quality of your emotional life. Do you know that you decide how you're going to feel by how you are going to respond? You decide when to get angry, when to be happy, when to be unhappy. You decide what your attitude is going to be when you get up in the morning. You decide the quality of your physical life. You're the one who decides what you eat, what you drink, what you don't eat and drink. You determine the quality of your financial life. You're the one who determines the quality and quantity of the work that you contribute. In every case, you're free to choose what you want. If you want things to be different, the starting point is to accept full, unqualified responsibility for your life. Well, I first discovered this whole concept of responsibility when I was 21 years old. I was living in a little apartment. I was working on a construction job. It was 35 degrees below zero outside. I didn't have a car. I didn't have any money in the bank. My clothes were old. I had failed out of high school. And I looked around me in that cold winter in that little apartment with no future and not much of a past. And I said to myself, if ever I want anything to change, it's up to me. That's the time where I really got scared. It suddenly hit me right between the eyes that if I wanted my life to be different, it was up to me to make my life different. And if I can get only one point across to you in this simple segment, this little segment, is that the starting point of flying to the stars, the starting point of taking complete charge of your life, the starting point of great success and great achievement is to accept complete, unconditional responsibility. If it's to be, it's up to me. If it's to be, it's up to you.